gods. Drums that could heal, flutes that summoned rain, horns that echoed over kingdoms. The ancients didn't just play music, they engineered frequencies. Each note had a purpose: to heal, to summon, to awaken memory. Even the word harmony, to them, meant aligning with the divine rhythm. If music has ever moved your soul, type. Star maps of stone, Africa's cosmic engineers. In Mali, Zimbabwe, and Sudan, ancient sites align perfectly with the stars. The Dogon mapped Sirius B, invisible to the naked eye, long before telescopes. The pyramids mirror Orion's belt. The Nubian temples mark solstices with precision. They weren't guessing, they were mapping consciousness into architecture. Type if you believe our ancestors walked among the stars. Darkness. Harvest of the sun, agriculture, and sacred math. Planting was once a sacred ceremony. African farmers timed crops with star maps and moon cycles. Each field was an equation of life and balance. They didn't just grow food, they grew harmony. Type if you believe even soil carries memory. The lion and the serpent, forces of courage and wisdom. Across Kemet, Benin, and Nubia, two creatures guarded every gate, the lion and the serpent. The lion ruled strength, the serpent awareness. Only one who mastered both could lead. That's why true kings ruled not through power, but presence. Engage, type if you walk with both strength and wisdom. The segment 56. Maps of the Spirit, the African Journey After Death. In the Egyptian book of Coming Forth by Day, the soul travels through gates. But this wasn't myth. It was a psychological map of transformation. Each gate represented a lesson, a vibration, an inner truth. Death was only a journey inward, to return enlightened. Engage. If you believe the soul continues, type. Segment 57. Voices of the Wind, the Ancestors Speak. In many African traditions, the wind carries voices. The Yoruba call it Emi, the breath of spirit. When wind stirs in silence, elders say, listen, they are near. The unseen isn't gone, and it's whispering through air and memory. Engage. If you've ever felt guidance in silence, type. And segment 58. Dream Temples, Africa's lost science of the subconscious. Before psychology, there were dream temples. In Kemet, priests trained to enter dreams to diagnose illness or receive prophecy. Dreams were parallel realms, not imagination, but communication. They called it resting in truth. Engage. If your dreams feel more real than waking life, type. The memory of the elephant, wisdom of longevity and legacy. The elephant, sacred across Africa, represents ancient memory. It remembers paths, faces, even water buried beneath sand. To the ancients, it symbolized eternal remembrance, the spirit that never forgets. To remember is the greatest form of power. If you carry ancestral memory, type. The New Dawn, awakening the builders of light. Our ancestors built pyramids from stone. We build pyramids of spirit. The age of remembering is ending. The age of becoming begins. Now we don't study their wisdom, we live it. The builders of light are returning through us. If you're ready to build the new age of African consciousness, type. The fire that thinks, conscious energy in African temples. To the ancients, fire wasn't a tool. It was alive. They spoke to it, fed it, tamed it. In Kushite sanctuaries, priests kept eternal flames, not for light, but for thought. They believed fire could listen, remember, and carry intent. Each spark was a seed of consciousness. If you've ever stared into a flame and felt it stare back, type. The mirrors of Mayat, reflection as divine technology. The goddess Mayat ruled truth and balance, but her secret symbol? The mirror? Mirrors in temples were made of polished obsidian to see not faces, but souls. They reflected inner order, not outer form. When an initiate faced the mirror, they met themselves for the first time. If you believe reflection reveals truth, type. The clock of the ancestors, time as a living being. In African cosmology, time was not linear. It was alive. Past, present, and future existed as circles that breathed together. The ancestors weren't behind you, they were beside you. That's why they said you are your future remembering its past. If you feel time moving through you, type. The shadow temples, hidden knowledge in the dark. Some temples were never built above ground. In Ethiopia and Sudan, subterranean chambers were carved to mimic the underworld, places of rebirth. In total darkness, initiates heard their heartbeat align with the earth's pulse. Darkness was not punishment. It was preparation. If you found clarity in your darkest moments, type. Stones that speak. The frequency of crystals in Africa. Before crystal healing became a trend, Africans knew their stones by song. Granite, quartz, obsidian, each resonated with a sacred tone. Temples were built over crystal beds to amplify prayers. Every vibration mattered, because vibration is consciousness. If you've ever felt drawn to a stone, type. The blue temples of Nubia. Architecture of light. Few know that ancient Nubian temples were once painted blue, the color of divine ether. Blue wasn't decoration, it symbolized the frequency of ascension. When sunlight hit those walls, the temples glowed. They built color, sound, and sacred math into structure, the original quantum design. If you believe color carries power, type. The bird of eternity. African symbolism of flight. Across Africa, birds symbolized the spirit set free. The Bennu bird of Egypt, ancestor of the phoenix, represented resurrection. The Yoruba saw birds as messengers of the divine feminine. Flight meant memory restored, heaven remembered. If you feel your spirit rising this season, a type. The DNA of the gods. Memory in the blood. African mystics taught that blood carries memory, not just genetics. They called it the river of remembrance. Through ritual and vibration, they could awaken ancestral codes. Your lineage is not history. It's software waiting for activation. If you feel your ancestors move through you, type the clay of the soul, ancient African human design. They said humanity was molded from sacred clay, not dust, but charged earth. In Dogon myth, the gods shaped humans through vibration and breath. Every vessel, every pot was a symbol of creation. Earth formed, spirit poured. You are a vessel carrying divine design. If you know you are made with purpose, type. The eye between worlds. African symbolism of vision. Every civilization honored the all-seeing eye, but Africa gave it meaning. The eye of Heru represented awakened perception. It wasn't surveillance, it was awareness. To see without judging, to know without controlling, that was divine vision. If your inner eye is opening, type the bells of awakening, sound in African ritual. The ringing of the bell wasn't just ceremony, it was command. The sound summoned attention across realms. When it rang, the air shifted, spirits listened. Every bell's note was tuned to a purpose, healing, summoning, or protection. If sound has ever healed you, type. The feather and the flame, symbols of ascension. To pass the test of Ma'at, the heart had to be as light as a feather. To ascend, one had to balance truth with compassion. Flame represented illumination. Feather represented grace. Ascension wasn't escape, it was alignment. If your heart is learning to stay light, type. The anchors of heaven. Sacred geometry in African design. The ancients encoded balance into their buildings. Every pillar, every column mirrored cosmic order. Geometry was the language of God, and Africa spoke it fluently. When they built, they were literally anchoring heaven into earth. If you build your life with divine intention, type the sun within, the true meaning of illumination. The final initiation wasn't about gods. It was about self. They said, When your spirit burns clear, your heart becomes a miniature sun. You become a source of light, not a seeker of it. That was the secret of every mystery school. Illumination was never external. It was you. If you carry light within, not above, type. The celestial architects, builders guided by the stars. Every temple in Africa points to the heavens, not by chance, but by design. Egypt's pyramids align with Orion. Great Zimbabwe echoes the Milky Way. They didn't just look at the stars, they built with them. The sky was their blueprint, the earth their canvas. If you believe your destiny is written in the stars, type. The serpent of knowledge, energy, DNA, and rebirth. The serpent wasn't evil in Africa. It was sacred. It symbolized life energy rising, the awakening of divine power within. From the Uraeus of Kemet to the rainbow serpent of Zulu myth, the message was the same. Awaken, ascend, renew. The serpent's dance is the dance of DNA. If you feel your energy awakening, type. The messengers of wind, spirit and breath in African science. Before words, there was breath. Africans understood that life itself was vibration, the sound carried by wind. The Yoruba called it Emi, the breath of spirit. To speak was to create. To breathe was to remember you are divine. If you believe your breath carries power, type. The astral navigators, African masters of the night sky. Long before telescopes, the Dogon mapped Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye. They knew its orbit, density, and companion star centuries before Western science. How? They said their ancestors came from the sky. Astronomy, mythology, and memory, all one continuum. If you feel connected to the cosmos, type. The iron that fell from heaven, meteoric metal and divine weapons. When meteors fell, the ancients called them tears of the gods. African smiths shaped those metals into sacred tools, the first weapons of ceremony, not war. They believed iron carried celestial spirit. Every forge was an altar, every spark a prayer. If you believe creation is both art and ritual, type. The language of birds, the forgotten speech of the spirit. In Egypt, Thoth was the ibis, the scribe who wrote with the language of sound. In Mali, griots said the birds carried wisdom between worlds. Birdsong wasn't noise, it was message. To hear it was to tune into nature's voice. If you've ever felt nature speaking to you, type. The mirror portals, dimensional science in ancient rituals. African mystics used polished obsidian not just to see reflection, but to see beyond. They gazed into mirrors to travel between worlds, mind, ancestor, and star. The mirror was a doorway, not decoration. When you look deeply enough, the reflection looks back. If you've ever felt another world behind your eyes, type. The water that remembers, sacred rivers of consciousness. In Africa, every river had a soul. The Nile wasn't just water. It was the bloodstream of civilization. From the Niger to the Congo, they believed water held memory. That's why libations weren't superstition, they were communication. If you pour water for your ancestors, type. The Moon Mothers, lunar science and feminine power. The moon ruled the calendars, the crops, and the womb. African priestesses charted its cycles to understand fertility and time. They said when the moon bled, the earth renewed. The moon wasn't a satellite. It was the rhythm of creation. If you move with lunar energy, type. The tree of knowing, Africa's axis of life. In every tradition, a sacred tree connects heaven and earth. The baobab in Mali, the Iroko in Yoruba lands, they were more than trees. They were living temples. Roots in the underworld, branches in the sky, balance incarnate. To sit beneath one was to touch eternity. If you've ever felt peace beneath a tree, type. The builders of silence, the engineers of sacred geometry. Temples like Lalibela were carved from a single stone, downward, not upward. Their silence wasn't emptiness, it was precision. Geometry was a prayer in form. They didn't build to impress gods. They built to become them. If stillness feels sacred to you, type the lightning of the ancestors, nature's hidden power grid. In oral traditions, lightning was not destruction. It was divine energy. Shango, god of thunder, represented balance, energy directed, not wasted. Africans learned to harvest power from storm and stone. Electricity wasn't invented, it was remembered. If thunder inspires you, not frightens you, type the flame within the skull, fire and consciousness. Ancient priests said the brain was the temple's lamp. They saw thought as light, the literal fire of awareness. When the mind aligned with truth, it shone. Illumination wasn't learned, it was lit. If you're awakening your inner flame, type the prophets of the black sun, the return of the hidden light. African mystics spoke of a black sun, unseen, yet ever present. They said when humanity forgets its origin, the black sun hides. But when truth returns, the hidden light rises again. Perhaps we are living in that awakening. If you feel the black sun rising within, type the return of the source. We've journeyed through temples and tombs, through rivers and stars. We've met kings without crowns, priests without temples, and scientists without machines. Yet all spoke one truth. The power is within. Africa's wisdom is not ancient. It is eternal. It is the memory of creation itself, echoing through your heartbeat, your breath, your dreams. This Friday when we go live, we don't just tell stories. We remember ourselves. The age of rediscovery is over. The age of remembrance has begun. And as we come to the end of tonight's journey, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for joining me beneath the stars, across time, and through the memory of our ancestors. Every name in this chat, every listener tonight, you are part of the great remembering. When we speak these stories, when we breathe these truths, we bring our ancestors closer. Their wisdom doesn't fade, it awakens in us. So as you go to rest tonight, may your dreams be filled with light. May the ancient energy of Africa surround you. May the spirit of Ma'at guide your heart, and may the fire of Ra rise in your purpose. Remember, you are not just learning history. You are the continuation of it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Stay curious, stay awakened, and stay connected to the source. Good night, family. Stay blessed, and may the ancestors walk beside you always.